Welcome to Detonation. We're back. This is the Italian Crisis episode. We've got Michael Smyth and Smyth&Ferri here, regulars on the alternative media scene, regular commentators, very smart men, here to battle it out and to tell us what's happening in Italy, because it's all sort of going nuts over there in Italy. The Italian government is basically collapsed. But before we get into all of that, Michael and Damien, Michael starting first. What did you think about the George Pell verdict?
I thought it was an interesting decision that was made, considering that the appeal was not unanimously dismissed, because there were two people who said it should be dismissed, and then one who said it should have been allowed to carry through. The result of which, as you know, is that he is going to be in prison for a minimum of 3 years and 8 months, but the official non-parole period is 4 years.
Yeah.
That was actually what I was reading was actually an article in The Conversation, of all things. Yes, I will sometimes read The Conversation. Don't ask why. I just do, just for the hell of it. Anyway, they were making the comment. It was a professor of law at one of the universities was basically pointing out that they were assessing the appeal, or the right to appeal, based on procedural matters, not evidentiary matters. And that's the main reason why it was thrown out, why the appeal was thrown out.
All right, so moving on to Damien. Damien, are you there with us? Damien, are you there with us? Damien. All right, so we seem to have lost Damien. I'll try and get Damien back. But in the meantime, Michael, would you start talking about the Italian crisis and why you wanted to call this meeting?
Oh, the Italian crisis was very interesting. It's been brewing for a couple of days now. The most interesting thing was the Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, losing his patience with Matteo Salvini, who is the Deputy Prime Minister and also Minister of the Interior in the Italian government of change. When I was writing with the Unshackled, I actually wrote an article about it and pointed out that the problem with the Italian political system wasn't so much one of instability as it was so much of a problem of executive overreach. For example, the first prospective cabinet that was proposed was a cabinet that included a Eurosceptic as finance minister, which the incumbent president, Sergio Mattarella, did not appreciate. So he used his powers under the Italian constitution to veto that cabinet. He then tried to appoint someone else as an acting prime minister, but that fell through. So in the end, the government of change, which was Lega, a notionally far-right party, and the Five Star Movement, a notionally far-left party, managed to form a new coalition and a new cabinet and submit that list, which Mattarella accepted. However, there's also Forza Italia in there as well, which was Berlusconi's old party. But the thing was, they didn't want to have anything to do with Forza as long as Berlusconi was in the picture. Thus, that's why
Michael,
you have...
just hold that thought for 1 second. So we're going through the parties. Damien, you've joined us. Hey, Damien.
Hi, Steele, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about George Pell before we launch into Italy.
Yeah, personally, I was disappointed with the decision. I think that on a case that just didn't seem to have enough evidence based on convicting someone beyond reasonable doubt, that it was quite a farce, to be honest. It sets a precedent in future now that somebody out of nowhere can make an accusation and basically get somebody charged without any reliable evidence being present. Not to say that I'm 100% sure whether he did it or didn't, but I think it's just on legal note very upsetting that somebody, when really the only thing that he was molested. I mean, there was no people, no evidence suggesting that this occurred. There was a lot of factors in play that seem to be conflicting, and we've been through this for several months now, so everybody's aware of the different issues. So it's very interesting to see, and I think it's a poor judgment, to be honest.
Yeah, so we are having a little bit of internet difficulty with Damien, but hopefully the audience can hear, get the gist of what he's saying. He's an incredibly smart gentleman, and we're very happy to have you on the show, Damien. So thanks for making the effort coming on. Michael, sorry I interrupted you. You were talking about the composition of the far right and parties in Italy. Please continue.
Well, Five Star Movement is actually a supposedly far left populist political party. What Five Star Movement and Lega bonded over is their rejection of globalism, because the major parties like Forza and the Democratic Party, they were very much the established political parties. So they were seen as, we'll play nice with everyone. We'll do what the rest of the world expects us to do, blah, blah, blah. The people, doesn't matter what the people think. That's why Lega and the Five Star Movement both did really well in last year's election. But the problem is there have been several disputes lately in regards to policy direction. In fact, one of the accusations that Conte made, the Prime Minister, who has now resigned, made was that Salvini was putting his own personal interests and the interest of the Lega, or the League, as it's translated in English, above those of Italy and the people. However, there is the official reason that Salvini has severed his coalition, well, the Lega's coalition with the Five Star Movement. It was the Five Star Movement's long-standing opposition to a French rail link from Lyon to Turin, I believe, or Torino, as they say in Italy. So that was an issue that he felt strongly about, and the rest of the Lega also felt strongly about. So he said, you know what? No, we're not going to continue this. They're not doing what we should be doing for the good of Italy. And in fact, he actually, in one article I read, he basically said, over the past 15 months, what have we been able to achieve? And basically put the blame on the coalition partners for lack of progress in terms of improving Italy's economy and society.
Damien, you're someone who's predicted this all along, the rise of the League, the Finns, the Slovakia Party, all of these right-wing parties. You're someone who has the contextual knowledge. Why do you think that he's got into this position where the far right is now almost captured the parliament there in Italy? What's the contextual scenario, to do with the crisis or the migrant crisis, etc.?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors into place here. Obviously, immigration is a very big factor. Economic downturn in a lot of European countries.
Damien, what we'll do, give me a call. Damien, give me a call. Give me a call on my mobile.
Putting these policies.
Damien, can you hear me, Damien?
Yep.
Give me a call on my mobile. I'll put you up to the speaker. All right, so we're going to try this. So we're going to try and get Damien on the phone. So anyway, yeah. So Michael, so it's an intriguing.
The person you have called is
It's an intriguing rise because contextually, Damien's right there. It's about European economy collapsing. It's about the immigration crisis. It's about the political crisis where Brussels is just aggregated way too much power off these sovereign European parliaments. I mean, contextually, here's Damien on the phone. So we'll. Hello, Damien. Can you hear us?
Yeah, definitely, mate.
All right. I think the community can hear you. So continue with your contextual analysis.
Okay, so what I was basically saying, it's very important for people at home to understand who the parties at play here in Italy, and the best way to do this is to compare them to parties at home so they get a bit of an understanding at the dynamics of that country and also of the parties at play. So basically, what we had in government, we had basically a party that you would say was similar to One Nation and a party that was similar to, say, the Nick Xenophon party in coalition. Now, obviously, both parties being on the right and on the left, both populist parties that are against a lot of globalist agenda, and they can bond on those things, but at the same time, they are parties that conflict in various ways, and that is exactly what happened here. Now, what will end up happening, from what I have read, is that there's a lot of speculation that the Five Star Movement, which is the left-leaning party, will go into coalition with the left-wing party, the Democratic Party, that Michael outlined as the major establishment party of the left, and likewise the League will go in coalition with the right-wing establishment party of Berlusconi's Forza Italia. Now, that isn't much of a difference there because they were previously in coalition with those parties. But the difference here is that this time round, instead of being underneath Berlusconi's major party, the League will be the major party and the establishment party will be the minor party under it. So to put this into perspective so people understand here, it would be as if the Xenophon party joined with Labour, but Labour was the minor party towards Xenophon's major, and at the same time the Liberals and One Nation joined, but the Liberals played second fiddle with One Nation. So the anti-establishment parties will be still the major players here, and the major establishment parties will be underneath them. So in a way, I think this is something that long-term can work out. There's already been talk that Salvini wants fresh elections to occur, and the reason for this is that if he was to get, many say that he's polling about 38%, that 38% compared to the percentage points that Berlusconi and also their other minor party in coalition will definitely get over the mark, and grant Salvini being Prime Minister rather than Deputy as he currently is.
Yeah, do you agree with that analysis, Michael?
That's basically correct. Yes, absolutely. I can't fault it.
Are you? Sorry.
No, that's all right. The only thing I would add to Damien's assessment is that the Forza Italia would not be happy with playing second fiddle, but they would probably go along with it simply because the multi-party system in Italy and in other countries as well, with mixed member proportional representation, tends to create a situation where coalition governments are inevitable.
Okay. So, Damien, I'm not sure if you can hear what Michael said, But now I'm going to ask you a different question. Are you happy? Are you happy with Salvini to? He's quite a young man. He's a very good campaigner for the far right, for the right wing. He's a very good campaigner. Would you be happy with him taking this much power at his age and with his experience in government? And he could do it.
Well, we definitely can do it. I think there's a great chance now because of what has happened here. Basically what it seems to be is that the anti-establishment parties that were in coalition together, even if they have split, they're still going to end up being more powerful than the other parties regardless. So I don't think it's a loss for them. I think that he can now possibly, with fresh elections, become the Prime Minister rather than the Deputy. And not only does he not have to deal with a left-leaning party anymore, but he'll have right-leaning parties instead that will be in coalition under him. So it will be a lot easier for him to get legislation through. There would be a lot more, how can you say, consensus on several topics of discussion. There'll be a lot more in agreement together. And whereas with that divide that he used to have, being with a left-leaning party in coalition made it very tough for him. Personally, I mean, I was never a fan of Liga back in the days because there were always a party historically that were trying to divide the country up. As a nationalist, it was something that I was always against. But these days, it's very, very much different. It's taken a very broad spectrum. It's no longer a regional party. It's more of a nationalist party that has taken on that far-right sort of profile that many of the other countries in the area have. And apart from Hungary and I think Italy really, they're the two countries in Europe that are leading the way at the moment when it comes to this sort of movement. So I think there's a very strong chance that he can win in a fresh election that's going to be occurring. Even at worst, if he becomes opposition leader and doesn't win, that still puts him as the leader of one half or one half of the spectrum, so to speak. I mean, that is still huge. So no longer does Berlusconi, for instance, be that leader of the right. Salvini is now the new leader of the right. So the dynamics have changed here. So I think exactly how it played out could be something that benefits him in the long term.
Yeah, Michael. So same question to you. Would you be happy to see Salvini as either Prime Minister and/or opposition leader, considering his age and experience and his sort of political fever?
It's clear that Salvini is a patriot who loves his country and cares for his people. I personally quite like Matteo, but the question is that I would actually counter with is, has he miscalculated? The question does have to be asked. Has he miscalculated in pulling the plug on his coalition with the Five Star Movement at this point? Because Mattarella, who is the president of Italy, he could very well say, I'm not calling for new elections. I'm just going to appoint a caretaker like he did with Mario Monti after the fall of Berlusconi in 2012, was it? 2012, 2013?
13,
my memory's a little bit... Yeah, my memory's a little bit foggy on that, but it was around that time. Anyway, the president at the time appointed Mario Monti, who was basically a technocrat and a big banker, or ex-big banker, to be the interim prime minister until new elections could be held. So there is that possibility as well. The other thing is that this stunt could backfire on Salvini. Yes, he'll still have a lot of support in the north, of course, without a doubt, but even in the south he's gaining support. However, if the Five Star Movement play their cards right, they could end up actually doing what Damien wants Lega to do, which is become the major party in its own right.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble. It's a gamble that Salvini's undertaken. If he pulls it off, he'll be seen as a genius. If he pulls it off, he'll be seen as a narcissistic failure.
Yeah. So you make a good point there that he's picking up votes in the South, and the votes in the South are primarily because that's where the crisis is. That's where the migrant crisis is. That's where the thing. If for the people just joining us, Damien Ferri, he's on the phone. He's joining us by phone. We tried to get him on the internet, and the internet was not the best. Thanks to NBN Australia. Thank you very much for calling in, Damien, and doing this. So, Damien, the question to you is: what challenges? What do you think will change if the government changes now, or if Salvini ends up in opposition? Oh, Damien's gone again. But Michael, you answer that question. What do you think will change?
If Salvini loses his gamble,
Yep.
you mean?
Or he becomes the PM, or he enters opposition, like Damien's saying.
Okay. There are several issues that Salvini or whomever takes over and wins will have to deal with.
Damien, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so 1 second, Michael. Damien, so the question to you is, what happens now? What happens once Salvini becomes either the PM or the opposition leader?
Well,
What changes for the country?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very difficult to sort of predict, isn't it? We just have to sort of wait and see, especially with the result of the election to come up. I mean, it definitely is going to be Salvini leading one end and the Five Star Movement leading the other, which is definitely better than what we used to have with the two establishment parties on both the right and the left. I'd rather two right and left parties that are anti-establishment rather than pro-establishment. So that's definitely a better outcome for us. Being both parties that are against the EU definitely helps, and globalism in general. It'll be interesting. I mean, I really hope he gets over the line, especially when it comes to immigration. They're definitely more serious in tackling that problem. And it seems that the Five Star Movement were putting up with it, but weren't really behind it as much. Since they are left-leaning, it wasn't really as much of a concern to them as it was for the League. So we just really have to sit back and see how it all plays out.
And what about on the issues? What about on immigration and the economy and some of the other issues?
Well, economically, I think is where both sides are going to be fairly evenly balanced there. I mean, it won't be because they're both going to be more protectionist. I think it's something that won't be having much dramas with. I think it's the social issues that will. I think that's where the big divide is. So the social issues being obviously with immigration. I mean, we saw Salvini pull a tactic, for instance, with Richard Gere not long ago, where he told him to take some immigrants to his mansion. We've really seen him being outspoken on this issue, and there's not many leaders in Europe that are. Even the ones that aren't to the extent that he is, and that's definitely ruffling a lot of the elite. A lot of people are really upset about that are high up are really upset of what he's doing and the agenda he's pushing. It doesn't go against their globalist narrative here. So he's definitely pushing a nationalist sort of identity focus, similar to how Hungary has managed to do in their country. So I really think that's a great outcome. And on other issues as well, like Michael mentioned, for instance, with the train line, I mean, that could have been definitely a regional issue, seeing that the League is from the north and a lot of the Five Star Movement was from the south, so there might have been a bit of an issue there where the Five Star Movement weren't in favour of such money being spent up north and so forth. The north were in favour of it because that's where they were from. So those type of issues there, when it comes to location, geographical, they're all games really that people play. We see them all the time in elections here when people want to build bridges and so forth in certain areas because it favours a particular crowd of people, and in other areas they don't want to for the same reasons. So it really is a political strategy in those type of big infrastructure projects. They'll be thinking, well, why is it that they're spending it in this area and not in the area where I'm from and so forth. So we really have to sit back and see what develops here. I think it will be exciting times, and it'll be interesting to see a fresh election coming. I think it's not something that that will downturn back to how it used to be. I mean, it's very common that an Italian country sees a change of government every so often, similar to how we had prime ministers changing so often. And they actually made a note that a year and a half for such a coalition to exist was actually not too bad. So I'm saying that we really have to take that in consideration here, and just see how they go.
Final question before I let you go, Damien, because I know you got to run to another show in a sec. Because you're a wanted man, you're the man with all the knowledge, So, do you think that this will lead be inspiration for the far right and the right, rising right across Europe?
I think it will. I think if he was able to get power, that would be a massive statement there. I mean, there's many countries in Europe at the moment that do have nationalist parties that are polling quite well, but they haven't gotten over the line or become one of the major parties. Like I said, even if he was to become the opposition, that is huge, because in most of the European countries, they're the third party. Like, you always see them as, similar to how the Greens are in Australia, that would be the Nationalist Party standing in Europe, in the European countries. So if they were to get from third to first or second, that is a massive improvement there, and it changes the dynamics of the continent as a general whole here. I mean, we really have seen a big push on the nationalist side the last couple of years. It's just come out of nowhere, and it keeps on growing. So, I mean, we've already had in Hungary people claiming power. We did also have them in Austria and Poland at a stage that seems to be winding down there a little bit. But I mean, Italy is one of the big countries of Europe, the big powerhouses. So a country like that to have a nationalist party leading would be a huge statement. We're not talking about a small Slavic country of, a couple million people here. We're talking about one of the big players of Europe, of Western Europe, one of the first world countries. And France is getting there too. That's probably the next country that will slowly fall in line, I would say. England with the Brexit vote obviously still there, but how they perform in regional elections is to be seen. Obviously, on the Euro side, they're doing well, but we just need to see how they perform regionally. With Boris now in charge in England, I think it makes things a bit harder for them, as a lot of people might turn back to the Tories now because of it. But all in all, I mean, it's really a big win for Europe. It really is, I mean, we have to see this as a general consensus here that this is the sort of politics that people are really pushing forward with. They're sick of the agendas at play here. They're sick of their loss of identity, their culture, traditions, and undermining, especially on the immigration issue, and also through social degeneracy, you could say, in the whether it be same-sex marriages or abortion laws or whatever else, anything that undermines the traditions that the country used to hold quite dearly. So we're seeing a lot of developments, and I think it's exciting times, to be honest.
All right, Damien, thank you for joining us on Detonation. And look, I'll let you go and run, because I know you got to go and talk to Tim. That's exciting. So I'll let you go, and thank you for joining us on Detonation. Michael, what do you think of all that? Damien's lent his wisdom here. Do you agree with any of that, or all of that, or what?
The only thing I would say is that it was already the big statement of anti-globalist feeling when the election happened prior to the government of change coming in, which was being the operative word, the coalition between the Five Star Movement and Lega. That's probably the only thing I would say. That statement has already been made. But he did say something else very interesting about how after Boris Johnson became Prime Minister in the UK, how people might go back to the so-called Conservative Party, because you did see something similar here when Scott Morrison took over from Turnbull. I mean, there were a lot of people who were fed up and not going to vote Liberal ever again. Then he became Prime Minister, and everyone was optimistic. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people were a lot more optimistic as a result. a lot of people still voted for the Liberal Party, despite the fact that they didn't know him. They thought, okay, well, he has morals, he's not Turnbull, he's not a globalist shill, or he didn't appear to be a globalist shill. So they gave the Liberal Party another chance to get things right. So there is that possibility that the Conservatives in the UK may have a similar result at their next general election. There is that possibility.
Yeah, it's good, like, because this Italian crisis sort of mirrors England a little bit, the UK a little bit, in the fact that the Brexit Party was an absolute surge. I mean, it was a protest vote. You know, this Liga. I mean, the thing about Italy that people have to understand is the coalitions, they come and they go, and they change parties really quickly. It wasn't historically the case. It wasn't historically the case because always the case because, you know, it was dominated by three parties. It was dominated by some communist party, some socialist party, and some conservative party for a long time until the 90s, until a whole bunch of scandal. But you know, so Italy has always been in constant flux. But this might stick. This absolutely might stick. Do you think this one will stick?
It's too early to tell.
Yeah.
It would be too easy if it did. It would also be too easy if it didn't. It's all pie in the sky at the moment still. All I can say is that Salvini will survive this, even if he does lose an election. That's, like I said, if Mattarella, the president, does decide to call an election, he will survive regardless. As to whether the Lega or the Five Star Movement will be the party on top, that's still to be seen. Because the North does have a
Yeah,
lot
it could
more
go either
wealth.
way. You're right. It could go to the far left as well.
Yeah, but what Damien said about most of Movimento Cinque Stelle, the Five Star Movement, being in the South, I'd have to look at the demographics again to get a better idea. But I suspect that you could end up having a stalemate again, where you have the old major parties, as Damien suggested, being the kingmakers. So
Yeah.
you could end up having a reversal of the old coalitions where Forza and Lega were in coalition, but instead with Lega being the senior partner in the coalition, as
Yeah.
opposed to Forza. So there is that possibility. But whatever happens, and because we talk about because we talk on this show especially about economics, don't we? And
Absolutely.
financial matters.
Mm.
So whoever wins, should there be an election, will have to deal with a very, very, very tough time coming up ahead.
The banks are awful in that country. Absolutely, Michael. I've got to leave it there. We've got to go. I'd love to have you on. I'll have you back on again soon. I've got to go. Tim's got to use this workstation. He's got to talk to Damien to talk about, I think, Cardinal Pell. So you know, hang around if you like that. I'm not sure what they're doing over there, but I've got to go. Michael, thank you so much for coming on and explaining this very complicated Italian crisis. You know, but we wish him all the best. I mean, it would be fun to see him in opposition at least.
Thanks, Steele. Good night.
All right, thanks.